actually in the Northgate Village Apartments now.
Well, I can tell you it's been a very, very dangerous and extremely fast pursuit. They've been chasing that van right there. Now,
It's exactly what he's doing. Are you Googling the laws right now?
Henderson Police Department's SWAT team responded to the scene and set up a perimeter around the condominium.
I travel in and out of time zone.
And the 3 key rules for a criminal defense lawyer: always on time, impeccably dressed, and occasionally sober.
The yellow sports car up ahead won't stop. Then something happens you might expect in a Spider-Man movie. It wraps around the tire of the fleeing vehicle and stops all forward motion.
Objection, action answered.
I mean, he leaps over the fucking bench.
No, the thing is, that's my property. You have no choice.
Actually, I do, because I found friggin' Xanax bars on your driver's seat. If you want to explain something, explain those.
Cops get very frustrated when you don't answer their questions.
No.
Right, step back forward.
He's gonna go straight. There's a car right here. Got him.
All right, I'm going to excuse everyone. Mr. Brooks is being removed from the courtroom.
This is fucking hilarious. So he pulls out a joint in court.
Go, 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 go.
Turn on your stomach! Stop fighting us! Stop resisting!
The injury by the police, that may be a separate issue for you to file a civil suit.
Chris, just while he's doing that, talk to me. What were you running for again?
Warrant.
Warrants? A felony warrant, city warrants, what?
Felony warrant on Kansas.
Well, I'm pretty sure they ran you, and you don't have any warrants.
I don't. No. No warrants.
No.
Oh, there's one Kelly.
It's all that for nothing, right? No warrants, no nothing.
Yeah.
Police! A little farther, bro. A little more. Okay, go.
Not finna sit here and let you fix the trial because you don't want to tell the truth to the jury.
We're there, guys. Got eyes on.
I want to suck it. Yes, I think I would like to suck your dick. I don't think so.
I prefer not to.
I prefer not to, sir. See, that I love that.
So do you wish to say anything?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Well, hello. Good evening, good afternoon, good night, good morning, wherever it is you're coming from. Welcome to the Defence Rests, and thank you for joining me. If you're live in chat, please feel free to post your comments and theories and anything you like, any of your opinions, but just keep it nice. That's all I ask. Yeah, you won't get a chance to do it twice. All right. So today I'm going to do good morning, Nikki from California. Welcome from Melbourne, Australia. So today I thought, seeing as the trial is not on for the rest of the week, I have a couple of things up my sleeve that I would that I've been working on. So I did a quite a detailed timeline going through all of the trial testimony and phone records and other research and stuff, and I've narrowed it down to like a 30-minute time period where it's the most important, where everything happens, basically. So I have a theory. Basically, I have developed a theory of my own to try and explain what may have happened the night on the 29th of February. And it encompasses both the timeline, the injuries, the dog, the phone data. So I've tried to include and make sure that it covers all of that in my hypothesis. So I thought I would share that with you tonight. But I would like to also just give a good shout out to Sean McDonough on going through the motions. His YouTube channel is amazing. He interviewed some expert witnesses in the medical profession that had some great ideas and great insight into the injuries that John has sustained. Now, I will actually say right now too that there is a graphic content warning. There is some pre-autopsy photos that will be shown. So if you don't want to see those, they are out on the internet. They're out there. But if you're not interested in seeing those, then please, by all means, turn off, switch channels. That's perfectly fine. But I needed to use them to try and explain how those injuries may have occurred and, yeah, compare it to similar type injuries. So graphic content warning, viewer discretion advised. All right, so I'll start off with, let's put this up here. All right, so on the night of the 20, oh, stop. I've saved it as a video and it's not going to come up as a slide. All right, so the night of the 29th, we have these people listed here, plus Chloe the dog, in the house at 34 Fairview. And in my opinion, John went into that home when Karen dropped him off at around the 12:30 mark. So let's move to the next one. That's not the next one. Why has it gone that far? I think I might have saved the wrong one. I did. Hang on a moment. Let me go back and find the right one. Okay. Where did I save that? Lord. I don't know where the time went today. I have done nothing but sit here in front of this computer and saved it in 2 different formats. All right, while I'm looking for that, I will play this because that is the wrong one. So this is a recording I took from Sean McDonough's YouTube channel, and it does a bit of explaining. He's interviewing a lady who is a registered nurse and pretty much explains a few of the things that I'll be going through. So have a look at this one.
Registered nurse for over 40 years. I have worked in ICUs. I have worked as a case manager. I have worked as an outpatient surgical nurse. I can honestly say I've done pretty much everything in my career. So, you know, I wanted to voice what my hypothesis is, my theory, because I've been following this case along with you for a year now. And it upsets me. It angers me that this man was treated like this. And, you know, but the first thing I want to say is I just want to express my sympathy to the O'Keefe family before we begin.
Very nice.
Because this is just a tragic story. And I also want to say that I am not a forensic pathologist. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a neurologist, but I have been a nurse for over 40 years. And like I said, as nurses, we use our vision to make assessments. And I have been looking at the pre-autopsy photos of Officer O'Keefe, and yeah, he looks like he was used as a punching bag by Joe Louis. you know, when Karen Reed said in that video that he was pulverized, I agree. He was pulverized. So, you know, I just wanted to start by a little bit of medical terminology. I believe the theory that he was in that house and he was beaten, and he sustained severe brain injuries. And I think he was hit so hard. It's called a contre-coup head injury, and it's French for basically a counter blow after counter blow. You get pummeled in the front of your face, and if you notice, his eyes had such huge hematomas. You know, I wonder if his.
All right. Now, a contre-coup, I looked up the definition, and basically it's a type of brain injury where the opposite side of impact is where the damage is done. So John had a significant laceration to the back of his skull, which caused multiple skull fractures, and the force of that impact caused the brain to lurch forward basically and impact behind the eyes, which contributed to the amount of swelling and bruising behind the eyes, which is what a contre-coup head injury or brain injury is.
Orbital bones were fractured as well. But, you know, you get pummeled like that over and over again, your brain is going to go back and forth, and it's going to go forward, and then it's going to go back again. And what that does is it tears blood vessels, and it tears neurons, and it causes a lot of damage. And my theory is that, you know, when they were done using him as a punching bag, I believe the fatal blow caused that 3-inch head wound in the back of his head. You know, and you know, I've followed this case, and I've read reports about, you know, the Albert cellar, and I know that there were a lot of people that lived there. Well, I know Brian Albert is also an MMA fighter, so he probably lifts weights. I'm not sure if this is correct, but I'm under the impression that he had some weight equipment in that cellar. Is that right, Sean?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
There was a pre-picture before they sold the house with a weight bench with weights on it. Yeah. I believe
right. So, you know, I investigated, you know, weight, you know, like the weight benches and the J cups where you hang your weights on. And it's funny because a standard J cup where you hang your weights on is 2 inches. So I have this theory that, you know, he was punched, and the last fatal punch knocked him down, knocked him back. He probably had loss of mobility. You know, any kind of movement, because he had a brain injury, so he probably was thrown off balance. And my theory is he was thrown backwards onto something hard that opened up the back of his head. And that was the beginning of the end for Officer O'Keefe.
Yeah.
That kind of injury, you know, once you're unconscious, and I don't know whether he was laying flat or whether he was, you know, he hit his head.
Gabby, did you get my link I sent you for Discord for the gavel drops? I sent you a link on the message. Check your messages, sweetheart.
And ended up leaning against the weight bench. But either way, you get 750 cc's per minute pumped to your brain. So he is going to lose a lot of blood.
Yep.
And not only that, once you're unconscious and you have this severe brain trauma, the first thing usually your body does in response to that is it vomits.
Yep.
You know, if he was upright in any way,
now the medical examiner's report said that, well, even though it hasn't come out officially, but apparently there was reported that he had vomit on his underwear and on his pants as well. So for him to be unconscious and vomiting from the head injury, which is the body's natural reaction response to the head trauma, and not choke on it, he had to have been in a at least semi-upright position, because when he presented at the emergency department, his lungs were clear. So just remember that.
Of course, he's going to vomit onto his clothes. But if he was flat on his back, Sean, and he started vomiting, and, I hate to say it, but there's no way that an unconscious human being can clear their airway if they're vomiting on their back.
So what you're saying is, according to the Commonwealth, if the Commonwealth's theory is he was hit and somehow miraculously ended up on his back, the vomit would have happened post the alleged hit, right?
Correct.
So how the hell would he be able to vomit so that it would come out on his, I guess, his underwear?
Exactly.
That's probably an impossibility then, right?
And that's why I think, there must have been a weight bench down there, and he must have, the contra coup, basically there's another type. It's called coup contra coup. And that means once your head is slammed against a stationary object. So I think whatever caused that wound in the back of his head was that stationary object. He might have slumped down. Maybe he was in a sitting position and then started vomiting, because I heard he had vomit down his pants as well.
Yeah.
And then, after that begins, then the seizures start. So, and I have a feeling that these people in the house, or, the first responder that was in the house, thought to himself, oh shit, he's having a seizure. Brian Albert is a Boston police officer. He has some training in first response. I can tell you right now, once John probably seized, he was in panic mode, because
Absolutely.
with that kind of head injury, you don't usually come back from it.
Well, the early indications that we were getting is from some pretty good source information. It had to be people right in the house, that he was unconscious, somehow gained consciousness, started convulsing, and then he threw up, just like you just described.
Right.
And
the first responder that was in the house thought to himself,
hang tight,
shit,
I've got my theory.
He's having a seizure. Brian Albert is a Boston police officer. He has some training in first response. I can tell you right now, once John probably seized, he was in panic mode, because
Absolutely.
with that kind of head injury, you don't usually come back from it.
Well, the early indications that we were getting is from some pretty good source information. It had to be people right in.
Oh, and I double recorded that. Sorry.
Unconscious.
All right. So let's have a look at my theory. Now, the only way I could save this was to present it as a video. So I'm going to have to pause and start it and pause and start it. So we know these people were in the house, but it's the time frames that a lot of them, or not a lot of them, we can't confirm Brian Albert, we can't confirm Brian Higgins, as their phones miraculously disappeared. So I've gone on the timeline of what their testimony has said with regards to when they arrived and when they left. All right. So, and in my opinion, Chloe was there too. So my theory is, let's go to the next one. All right. So we have the 34 Fairview Road, we have the house, and we have the vehicles where they were apparently located. So as per Karen's timeline, she arrived at about the 12:15 mark, and I think they had a bit of an argument as to, because she didn't want to go in. John's decided he's going to go in without her. He goes inside. She ums and ahs for 10 minutes or so and leaves, because there is CCTV footage from the city library that was given to the prosecution in a digital format, and when it was supplied to the defense, there was a 2-minute period at 12:28, between 12:28 and 12:30, that was missing, and it had been burnt onto a CD format for the defense. And 12:28 would have been the time that Karen Reid's car would have driven past that city library on her way back to the meadow, and it would have shown her intact tail light. So that's the timeline that I've gone on with regards to her presence there. Now, Ryan Nagel, Julie's brother, him, Ricky, Ryan and Heather arrived at 12:20 to pick up Julie, and she decided that she was going to stay. But all three of them said that they did not see Brian Higgins' Jeep there. And he says that he left at approximately 12:30. So keep that in mind. Next. All right. So my theory is that the boys went down to the basement. Okay. Actually, I might have to move myself off the screen there. Oh, I've got a bigger photo. It's okay. So I think the two Brians were downstairs looking at the photos down in the basement. And I've put a picture there of the basement at Brian Albert's place. And I reckon that they'd set it up pretty much like a man cave. That's where the boys go and drink the beers and what have you. So I think they were downstairs in the basement, having a chinwag with Colin, and Chloe had gone down to be with Dad. All right. And then John arrives, and John goes, "Oh, where are the boys, Oh, they're downstairs." He heads downstairs. All right. Stay with me. Stay with me. Next one. Okay. So, as I said, graphic content warning, just be wary. I have to move myself off. Can you hear me now? Bugger. How long was I on mute for? Probably as long as I took myself off the stage, yes? I'll have to move myself. Sorry. Hi, Kiss Me a Cow. Welcome. Thank you. Yes, I took myself off the stage and so that you could all see the picture, and it apparently muted me. All right, I'll start again. Right. Let's go. So we go back one then, shall we? We'll go back to the basement. All right. So it's my belief that the downstairs basement was set up with the home gym, but I reckon it was set up like a man cave, basically, for the boys to go down and have their. I know, I'm an idiot. For the boys to go down, do their boy stuff. So I believe when the two Bryans got back from the waterfall, they headed downstairs to look at the photos or whatever it was. And Colin was down there, and Chloe's gone to go with Dad. Hey, Angela, welcome. I've got my I'm doing my theory, my hypothesis on what happened. So, but there is a graphic content warning. So if you're just joining us, graphic content. All right, so just beware. Okay, so the boys are downstairs. John arrives. Let me go to the next one. IT tonight is not working with me. I tried to save it as slides, but it wouldn't save it in the right format. So it's now a video. Okay, now how do I move myself out of the way? Let me try that one. Okay, at least you can see the pictures now. So this is the basement of 34 Fairview. And I've circled these for a reason. So at 12:21, or between 12:21 and 12:24, John's phone shows that it ascends and descends 3 flights of stairs. So I believe he's turned up at 12:15 or whenever it was. Karen's phone was, here it is, between 12:15 and 12:30. Karen's car is at 34 Fairview. John's gone in by himself. She didn't want to go in. They could have argued, I don't know, but yeah, there is as I said, the 2 minutes missing from the City Library video CCTV footage. Mind you, no footage from anywhere up the street, across the road. There is, if you go on to anyone that's researched the case, pretty much they've done a walk up of the street and shown all of the CCTV cameras across the road that would have had a clear view of the comings and goings, and none of it was ever recorded. So he goes downstairs to see the boys, okay? Then he's realised, oh, bugger, I forgot my beer. I'll go and get one from the kitchen. So off he goes upstairs again to the kitchen, grabs a beer, runs downstairs again. That's 3 flights of stairs, all right? That explains that. Now, just remember these here. Okay, I'll come back to it, but just remember them there. All right, this is my theory. So at 12:10, the two Bryans arrive, and Colin Albert, they go downstairs to the basement, and Chloe follows along. At 12:13, the McCabe's leave the Waterfall Bar. That is off Jen's phone extraction. 12:15, John and Karen arrive, but only John goes inside. 12:18, John calls Jen's phone back because they'd been texting and calling, and it had been answered. So he was alive at 12:18. 12:20 is when Ryan, Ricky, and Heather arrive to pick up Julie, and none of them see the Jeep owned by Brian Higgins. 12:21, John goes downstairs to the basement to see the boys, as I said. 22, he goes back upstairs to get a beer from the kitchen and returns to the basement, and that accounts for the 3 flights of stairs that show on his Apple Health data. Now, from then on, something triggers an argument between John and one of those 3 men, whether it's Brian Higgins bragging about the text messages to Brian and John overhears it, or someone said something. I don't know. That's my thought, but something starts an argument between John and someone else, and a fist fight ensues. Now, it had to have involved Brian Higgins, because that would explain why Chloe would get involved. So if someone's trying to hit Brian Albert, then the dog's natural response is to protect their owner. So that would explain why we have the lacerations to John's right arm, and I will show you a picture of that in a second. And at some point when he's hit in the face, he falls backwards, and that is enough to push him backwards and hit his head onto that gym equipment that was there. Now, I'll go back that one. If you have a look at that, I'll see if I'll do it full screen in a second and then I'll come back to it. But those bars where the weights sit is pretty much 2 inches, which correlates to the size of the laceration on the back of John's head. Now, as we all know, head wounds bleed like a stuck pig. So he would have hit that really hard, because in the photo it looks like it's really deep, that wound. And that would have rendered him pretty much unconscious. And I believe that he's fallen backwards onto one of those bars, and he's then slid down into a semi-upright position. And that's when he starts to vomit. And that's why there is no vomit in his lungs when the EMTs find him. And that would explain why the vomit is on his pants and undies. And then, yeah, well, this is their actual gym downstairs. And I've got some more photos. Hang on. Stay with me. Stay with me. All right. So I'm going to have to make that big. So he falls backwards onto the gym equipment, and that renders him unconscious, but leaves him semi-upright. And then at 12:32, that trauma, the head trauma, causes him to start vomiting and start having a seizure. Now, that seizure, I think, is what the 36 steps on his iPhone records. That's my theory. And I think he may have had that phone in his hand or in his pocket or something, and the 36 steps right then were the actual seizure that he was having. And from that point on, I believe that the phone was initially switched off by whoever was in the room. My theory. Next one. So at this point, Brian Higgins, who is now a witness, an accessory, and Jen go into damage control. All right, so Jen manages the teens upstairs, and Brian heads to Canton Police Department to monitor the situation and all the activity that goes on. Why else would you go back to work on your day off? Just saying. 1:47, Jen and Matt leave to take Julie and Sarah home. Now, I don't know what the conversation has been with regards to them, but something, I mean, Brian Adams obviously has some weight in the community, and who knows what was said to them to get them, this is my opinion, to toe the line. Now, I think John was in that basement until after the last plough driver went through, Lucky Loughran. So once that was done, there was an F-150 parked in the front of the Albert's house that was testified to on, was it Tuesday? Wednesday, the last day we had court. And I believe that's when they moved John from the basement up to the front lawn and placed him there. And then his phone was placed back underneath him. Excuse me. Now, this is the actual spot where they removed John's body from the front lawn of 34 Fairview. And it explains why there is only so the photos to your right are the spot where John's head was found, or was placed. And it explains why there isn't a great deal of blood there, because that would have bled a ton, especially because he'd been drinking as well. And we only have a few splats and splots here and there, and that does not correlate with the size of the head wound. What have you? Yeah, it just makes sense. I mean, why would you ascend and descend 3 flights of stairs? The only thing that would be is, oh bugger, I forgot my beer upstairs. I'll go and get it. That's what I was thinking anyway. And it's only as I said, it's only a theory. A theory backed up. Oh, okay, cool. Share, please share. Yes, let's hear it. And Nikki says, "Good morning." All right, yeah, write it, pop it in chat, and I'll let me just get through this, Angela. And if you've got StreamYard, you can put your email address in if you're happy to in chat, and I will send you the link to the stream if you like. Let me just get through this a little bit first. Right. Next one. So this is 7:30 the next morning. Now, does that look like a crime scene to you? Because it doesn't look like it to me. No preservation of evidence, no crime scene tape, no cop cars, no, evidence in the plastic cups, no search or investigation done inside the premises. And because it was in the basement, nobody went down there. No, there was no visible signs of any wrongdoings in the kitchen where the rest of the family was interviewed by Trooper Lank. So that explains that. Next one. All right, yeah, graphic content warning, okay? So these are the pre-autopsy photos taken of John after the failed attempt to resuscitate him. So as you can see, he's been intubated. He has a neck collar on. He has defibrillation pads on, which means they tried to shock his heart. I don't believe he was alive when they found him, pretty much. I don't believe he was. And you can see the blood, the hematomas behind both eyes, which could be explained by either being punched in the face, but it could also be explained by, as I said, that contre-coup injury where the impact reverberates so hard from the opposite direction, and all of the impact damage is done at the front on the opposite side of where the impact was. So now, as they tried to warm him up, they tried to do everything, but the medical examiner that testified did a terrible job of explaining what they did and why they did it in the resuscitation, in the ED. So I'm in the process of doing a more explanatory, detailed explanation of what they do in resuscitation, because I was a registered nurse for 12 years. I worked in intensive care and coronary care. So yeah, I'll try and explain it, what they're doing, what they're looking for, what their priorities are, and why they didn't do other things like do x-rays and stuff. I'm glad you're enjoying it. It's been keeping me up at night. So the next one, now these are his hands. Okay, now there's a couple of things to note. He does have a defensive wound on his right hand, if that's what it's it is a defensive wound, or it could have been banged on something as he was falling. I don't know. But the important thing to note here is that his hands are curled up into that clench type fist. Okay. Now that's not from punching. That is also the body's natural response to a massive head trauma. The hands naturally curl up into that position. Okay. So if you notice, both of his hands are in that same position with the fingers curled in. Now, normally it's a position where they come up and curl here to the chest. But John was found flat on his back and his hands to his sides, but his hands were still in that position. So that to me says that he was moved for a start, but they didn't straighten his hands out or anything. Just a fun fact. Oh, you could be our reporter on the ground, Gabby. You should have said. go down to 34 Fairview and we'll do a live stream together. All right. So the next one. Come on. There we go. So that is a bigger picture of the laceration to the back of John's head, and it just looks like the perfect size for one of those weight support beams, whatever you call them. I'm not sure what their names are, but all right. Now, this is the arm injuries explained. So the top two photos are John's arms, so the pre-autopsy photos that were taken of the lacerations to his arms. The bottom two were taken. I took a screenshot of Melanie Little had a dog training expert on, and he trains dogs police dogs how to bite and fight. So the bottom two pictures are of the fake arm that they use to get the dogs to bite onto. And if you go onto her YouTube channel, that she actually has a full video of him and his explanation on why they look like that. Basically, the dog is taught to bite and pull back, as well as the fact that our natural instincts too are to pull away from it as well. So that's why instead of looking like they're an actual puncture wound, they become a tear, a laceration. There is a couple of puncture wounds in the top left-hand photo, but the majority of them are a laceration type wound. And you can see that they're fairly similar as to what John's injuries sustained. He's funny. He's so funny. No, I haven't, but I might start watching it. I've been watching Turtle Boy all weekend, so if I start swearing, you know why. All right, next one. Is there a next one? Oh, no, we're back at the start. Woo! Okay, cool. Let me put me back. Hello, I'm back. All right. So that's my theory anyway. I tried to incorporate as much of the details as possible, and logically work out what was happening and why we have different injuries that are sustained, head injuries and then lacerations to the arm, because in my opinion, let's face it, I don't believe that any of those injuries were caused by a vehicle pedestrian accident. His size, there was no lower body damage, no skeletal damage from the neck down, basically, which is what you would definitely see if a vehicle was to collide with a human body. Good investing. Thank you, thank you. So I was going to go through now. As I said, Sean McDonough is this retired DEA supervisory special agent. He worked hand in hand with Turtle Boy at the beginning, and Turtle Boy is the investigative journalist, and Sean McDonough has the contacts from, his ex-DEA. So between them, they came up with quite a lot of the evidence that the defense is actually using, including, the photograph of Jennifer McCabe's car outside of the Proctor's house. That was Turtle Boy. So the first video that I played was Sean McDonough interviewing a registered nurse and her opinion on his head injuries. And this one is, he actually ends up with, I think, 4 medical professionals that he interviews. And the third lady is extremely informative in her assessment of what happened. She's a wound specialist as well. So I thought I might share that with you guys, and you can have a look at that because it is really interesting. And do go over and like his page, Sean McDonough. It's the, what's it called? Going Through the Motions. He has some awesome videos over there. He's he's very animated. But yeah, especially if you see some of the interviews he does with Turtle Boy, it's quite funny. All right, let's watch this one and go.
A very, very special guest also. Her name is Kim. And, well, let's bring her on, okay? This is Kimberly. How are you?
I am good, Sean.
This is, I'm sorry. Listen, are you enjoying the back and forth?
I'm obsessed. I actually was thinking to myself, I don't know how I'm going to come on. I should have gone first because Mary and Kendra were so good.
They really are excellent. So like with Mary and Kendra, Kim, why don't you go ahead and give a little something about yourself and who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing, and what you plan to talk about.
Absolutely. So my name is Kim, and I have been a registered nurse since 2012. Before that, I was an LPN, and I am a wound certified clinician, nationally recognized. And I'm from Massachusetts, and my family is a family of law enforcement. And this case has been particularly difficult for me to wrap my head around, as you know, Sean. This has just been, initially I was like, there's got to be more. There's going to be more. It can't be what it looks like. But with the additional information that has come out, with all of the documents, with, the beautiful coverage from you, from Turtle Boy, from LTL and Melanie Little, I got right back in it in November and have been, really invested since.
Good for you. That's great.
Yeah.
So
I just wanted to, sorry, go ahead, Sean.
I'm sorry. So what was it about the case that grabbed you? Oh, I want to ask you. So was it being from a law enforcement family, right? Is it a sticking point with your family as far as, the whodunit versus, guilty, not guilty, any of that dynamic going on? Because it was very hard for me. I will tell you. Initially for me, as a law enforcement, 35 years, it was very hard for me to accept the fact that something this tragic could be covered up and literally be done by other cops. It just blew my mind. How could another Boston cop be participating in a murder of another Boston cop? And it was very bad. It was hard for me to get to the point I am right now.
Heartbreaking.
But once I did, forget about it. It was so overwhelming to see how bad this case was. How about that dynamic with your own family?
So my grandfather was the first motorcycle police officer in the town that I'm from in Massachusetts. And then my dad was a 25-year veteran. And the older generation, I have seen, Sean, there be a huge disconnect, like shut your mouth, don't, like, better kind of. And the younger, like I would say like millennials, like, are more apt to say, well, like this is not adding up. And if somebody's doing something wrong, the thin blue line seems to like nobody's going to cross that the younger that they are. I have seen within my family.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, the floor is yours. You just impart whatever you feel necessary. I'm
Okay.
Really,
Thank you. So Mary covered everything that I thought I was going to cover as it relates to loved her theory, love her experience of, 40 plus years. Incredible. Kendra hitting on the, psych aspect is like unparalleled. And I actually do have, I did 10 years of VNA nurse, when my kids were little. So I did a lot of specifically dual diagnosis patients, meaning that they had physical issues, but also mental health issues. And I work closely with the VA in that capacity as well. Okay. So I really wanted to talk just about a couple of things regarding, the scene from Officer O'Keefe being found on 34 Fairview, and then kind of go into the office of the ME office for Massachusetts.
That would be awesome.
Okay.
Awesome.
So Mary so incredibly went over the positioning in which Officer O'Keefe was when we see those pre-autopsy photos, that it's called a decerebrate. Like your arms are like this, but they should be up here, right? Sure. And that's with a brain injury. And I noted when observing those photos that his arms are extended, but still in that almost claw fist condition. So that leads me to believe that if he had been hit by a vehicle at 24 miles an hour or whatever, the DA claims today, and thrown the 12 feet and not moved at all, just landed in that supine position, right on his back, then he would have gone up into this retracted state. For his arms to be down makes me think his arms were moved. Okay. And this is before rigor set in, and before January 31st, when Irene Scortibello completed that autopsy.
Right.
So I just wanted to throw that out there, that his natural reaction would have been an internal rotation.
Okay. That makes perfect sense. Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Wow.
Thank you. And then I also, when looking at the autopsy from Irene Scortibello, there are so many things here, but we know that she opined that he had several abrasions to his right forearm, 2 swollen black eyes, a small cut above the right eye, a cut to the left side of his nose, and an approximately 2-inch laceration to the back right of his skull, right? And he also had multiple skull fractures, which resulted in bleeding of the brain. She also noted that his pancreas was dark red color, indicating the hypothermia that had set in, and those were the contributions to his death. But she also opined, which I haven't heard many people talk about, that there was blunt force trauma injuries that occurred prior to Officer O'Keefe's hypothermia in his abdominal region, as evidenced by hemorrhage in his pancreas and stomach. So what does that mean, Sean? Okay.
What does it mean? Please.
What does that mean? So that is telling us that he was bluntly impacted, right, to his abdomen, specifically his pancreas and stomach, right, were bluntly impacted, but there is no skeletal injuries to his ribs, no broken ribs, no broken pelvis, no trochanter, no hip, no patellas. Everything that we have said does not correlate with a pedestrian strike
fatality.
Okay, so stop. I'm going to stop you right there.
Sorry.
So unlike the front of the car, right? And
Correct.
was big. That front of the car would have hit him right there. The back of the car, right? The bumper is somewhere about the knees, right?
Mm-hmm.
That whole back of the Lexus would have hit him from the head down. I mean,
100%, Sean. 100%.
Right.
And what that doesn't, like, when you're taking into account a 6'2", 217-pound Officer O'Keefe, it's a Newton's law of physics, right?
Right.
Hello.
Don't forget also, he was 12 feet off the roadside onto the lawn. So he would have had to have been propelled from the road to 12 feet. 217 pounds, 6'2" man at 24 miles an hour, and not do any damage to the plow that was supposedly parked behind you. This lady she makes a lot of sense. She's very knowledgeable.
Like, we
Very
know
interesting.
that high energy impact, the damage to his body would have been catastrophic to his skeletal versus in the back, like an occipital laceration that ended up, causing a brain injury, right?
Right.
So that's what I just wanted to say on that.
Well, that's a great point. And let's talk about this.
Yes.
And I said this sarcastically, but it pisses me off. It really does, Kim, because this Commonwealth, these detectives are trying to tell us that this vehicle was so smart. And I was sarcastic. Injuries, neck up, his right arm,
Mm-hmm.
and the backs of his hands, right? Right?
Yeah.
Is it right? Yeah, right.
Right. Yeah.
Right. How the hell does the car selectively hit you at different places? It's impossible. I get the back of the head. He's going to hit something, but where?
Yes.
Where? Not the car.
And why would
It's
you
at
get
24
that-
miles an hour. If
that
his head
mark?
was impacted like this other guy says he wants to say, picking up a friggin' cocktail glass, his head would have had, like you said, cash at 24 miles an hour. Absolutely. Bang, right to the head. His head would have been crushed.
Yeah.
I will just mention too, in saying all that and going through my theory on what I believe had happened, lost my train of thought now. I've completely gone blank. I'll start again. It'll come back. It'll come back.
Especially if the car keeps going.
Right.
Anyways, it's just to me, it's been a year now. I'm at the pissed off level right now. I'm pissed because we're still talking and they're still going to bring this piece of shit case to a jury. I can't believe to the judge's courtroom. I can't believe it, but I'm sorry.
No.
Rant here, Kim.
No, well, I got on Twitter like the other day. I was like, I'm going to get on the Twitter and, I'm going to, try to engage with people here. Right. And I was like, I got to get off the Twitter because this is obnoxious. And, I understand with that. Right. But when you mentioned also his right hand, Sean, I do want to tell you that the metacarpus of your hand is this region, right? So you got your phalanges up here, but you have your metacarpus. This is a whole situation. Right. And when we talk about the bruising that was only on that hand, right. We know that that's a defensive wound, but it's not documented as a defensive wound.
No.
And our eyes would tell us like, like make it that's not feeling genuine.
It's not even a place where you would be bruised from a punch because the force of a punch hits the front part. Where's my camera? The front part here. That's where you would have bruising on your knuckles, not the back of your hand. So I think that was probably something that he's either, as he's been hit backwards and fallen, he's banged it as he's fallen. it may well have been one single punch. And that's what I was going to say. Having said all that with my theory, I don't believe that it was premeditated. I believe that it was an accident. I don't think that they purposefully lured him over to 34 Fairview to, beat the shit out of him or kill him or whatever. I think it was an accident. Things got out of hand. Someone hit him too hard. And it was an oh fuck moment, and they just went into cover up mode to save their own asses. That's my opinion anyway.
And the
Otherwise, they
other
would have been
huge
way better
portion for
organised.
me was I have, unfortunately, in my career, reviewed many an autopsy and been
That's
involved
the other
in.
thing too. The medical examiner is supposed to be an unbiased opinion. They're basically just there to report the facts of what they find, because that's what's in front of them. And you've heard in every trial the medical examiner being questioned, and they say it's not my job to make assumptions. It's my job to just report the facts, basically. And yet this medical examiner made a comment that it didn't look like he had been in a physical altercation, in a fist fight. So, yeah, there's that.
Pronouncing, etc., of our patients. And I have
Yes,
never
that's
in
true.
my career seen a medical examiner document what a patient did not die of, but
I have
not
to.
document what they did die from.
So explain that, Kim.
Yes.
That's a very great point. Explain that to the guests.
He was an MMA fighter, I think.
Yeah. So, Dr.
The
Scorty Bello.
14 people we have here.
Oh, I can't even see it.
It's just you and I. It's just you and I.
Just us. So she documented, I want to give exact terminology so no one can come for me.
This is so good because we've been concentrating on all the other crap, but this is what it really comes down to right here.
She documented that there was no sign. I'm so sorry.
We got time.
I want to know how she got the autopsy
We got
report.
time. It's not. Yes. Okay. So she documented that there was no sign of a fight or altercation, right? That was just in it. But we did have a cause of death that was determined as blunt force impact trauma to his head and hypothermia. The manner of death is determined in the courts as undetermined, right? And the DA is asking for that to be, excluded because they shouldn't be able to talk about that. Yeah. But she did not opine that it was a motor vehicle accident, right? Anywhere.
Right.
Not to the grand jury, not to anybody, as it's been documented via, the prosecution's motions. There's been no information of that. And it was not designated a homicide. And that just lets us know, Sean, it lets us know that somebody told her that he was not in a fight.
Ooh. Like a winky wink? No, more dramatic, right? Hey. Right.
And even if it was a common practice, I don't know because I'm not a medical examiner. Right. I'm just a registered nurse. But what I will say is never have I ever seen a medical examiner document.
I think Sean McDonough has a few contacts that he may have pulled a few strings, perhaps, just quietly. But yeah.
Specifically, what you did not die from.
Right.
But you don't give us what you did?
Yeah. That's crazy.
Huh. So I felt like that was just so out of the norm. It's so irregular.
Yep.
Right.
That it's
who does that?
Jaw-dropping.
So, early on I made this assessment because my I only had 3 years as a crime scene investigator, but I did have, like yourself, many autopsies. And when we did have limited accidents and homicides, right? We always wanted the ME to be fresh eyes, not have any collusion with the facts of the case. It was, in other words, let him or her take the body and let the body tell the ME what the body died from. That is the whole thing about a medical examiner.
I couldn't help myself, Gabby, on my thumbnail. I just had to. Yep. It's just like la la lolly.
The forensic pathology is what dictates. That's why even in stupid.
This is actually a very tame video he has on his channel. He's super animated and he really is passionate about it. And yeah, he's very funny to watch.
I don't want to say about like Law and Order, but you always see the detectives going in. So, Doc, tell us.
That's exactly what it should.
And listen, I believe this. I believe those detectives would have said, "Hey, by the way, it wasn't a domestic assault. It's a car accident." Do you agree with something like that?
100%.
Oh, thank
and
God.
I think that they were on the right path, right? When they were talking about initially saying that Karen saying, I hit him, did I hit? I mean, this woman is hysterical.
Yeah.
She, in that leaked 911, in the message that she's leaving for John that we've heard, she's saying one word at a time, Sean. She's going, John, Carrie, Jen. She can't even put a sentence together, right?
Can't even breathe.
Can't even, the poor thing. I can't even, imagine.
Who did a tribute episode? Angela? I didn't see that. I would like to watch that. Just let me know.
Imagine what she was feeling in that moment, but for them to initially try to go down the route of a domestic, they had the right idea. You had the right idea that a physical altercation or a fight happened. You just thought it was with Karen, and it wasn't.
Yeah, because I believe the gatekeeper, Brian Albert, said, "Hey, wait a minute, guys. A 95-pound woman soaking wet is not going to be able to beat up a Boston cop with a friggin' cocktail glass. Ain't going to happen." So then, of course,
not on this planet.
Away, right? She's gone. Yeah. So continue down with that, ME, because I think you come up with some great stuff.
Thank you, Sean. So basically, and I hate to do it, but we got to do it. So the medical examiner, the Office of Chief Medical Examiner in Massachusetts has had problems for a very long time. This office almost lost its accreditation 3 different times. It's all documented. This is all public knowledge. Don't come for me. Look it up. I promise you, you will find it. And as for 2022, there was an article done by Boston.com, and then there was follow-up by Boston 25 News that autopsies were performed at a 26 to 27% case load, right, for the entire state. Now, this is significantly lower than the national average per the United States Department of Justice website, which they state that 38% of cases are typically gone, to the state for autopsies.
Wow.
So now we see that there's problems with the MEs turning around these autopsies as well.
Have a listen to their
They're
solution.
not falling within the 30-day mandate. You're supposed to do them in 30 days, or less. And there's backlogs for over a year. People have been waiting.
Like for toxicology reports and all that stuff and all the, the data. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. And then here was the kicker for me. So in 2021, 14% of cases taken on by the Massachusetts OCME was where the examiner simply performed a chart review and did not examine the bodies in person.
How's that?
Okay. So what they are using is they are using a medical record from a hospital or whatever, and they are also using government or agency photographs.
Wow.
Well, how's that grab your ass?
Okay, well, let me ask you a quick question.
She's done her research.
We see those photos, and those photos are of John on a sheeted gurney, right? He's not on the steel, whatever they call that thing. And but they're told they're classified as autopsy photos. No. To me, that seems like there would be something in the ER prior to going to the medical. Why are they documenting those as autopsy photos? Could that suggest maybe they did this in this case? I don't know.
It is very interesting, and I don't know that. I don't know that answer. And if she didn't lay her eyes on him,
right? Yeah,
I can't.
Right, because everyone has commented, those can't be autopsy photos. They are, they're supposed to be on a gurney. They're supposed to be not on a gurney, but on a the steel slab, so that all the blood drains out. And I hate to, I want to be morbid, but we've been there many times.
Yeah.
Certainly
why don't they just say
tables.
Photos from the ER prior to the
and you could see his abdomen. There was no.
I don't know.
We'll
probably find out.
We will.
There'll be an answer for that too. Who knows?
Defibrillation pads on,
and if that
pads and.
I feel that could be an ace in the hole for the defense if there is that example given, but they have to use those photographs from either the staff or agencies in order to determine the cause and manner of death, right? But the chart review part of overall autopsies done in the state of Massachusetts doubled between 2020 and 2021 and quadrupled between 19 and 21 of them doing chart only versus in-person inspection.
Whoa. Wow.
Just saying.
That's a lot to say.
And this was all like a new adopted method by the chief medical examiner. Her name is Mindy Hull, and she was appointed in 2017.
Okay. Wow.
And I also just was thinking that,
I don't know if he was cremated or not, Angela. I don't know. If anyone knows, let us know. But yeah, it's a big wow. Big wow. That's why I thought I'd share it, because it just explains a lot of the background info and what was going on at the time and why there is such limited information out there. Yeah, if he wasn't cremated, they could, or they'd have to exhume. But yeah, I don't think the family would approve of that now. I don't know. It's a hard one.
The office budget for the medical examiner has ballooned from $9 million in 2017 to $17 million in 2023.
So more money, less work.
More money, less work.
Wow.
Overwork, I would say it's kind of like underworked and overpaid into my next point.
There you go.
So the 2024 budget is 18 million, a little bit over that. And here was the kicker. We were talking about the less work being done, but overtime skyrocketed from 277,000 in 2017 to $712,526 in 2022.
Wow.
What are we doing overtime for, guys?
Someone's making money.
And it's Irene Scorti-Bello. I'm going to tell you what she.
Oh my God! This keeps getting better.
She knows what.
Let's tell the truth.
Yeah. Well, this is just public.
I didn't get you till this
and
morning,
I did notice too. She's not on the Commonwealth's witness list or the defence's. This ME, she is not on there. Just saying.
This is so good. Oh my God, I'm so happy. So, all right.
So
it's a big hit.
So Irene Scorti-Bello was previously a medical examiner in New York. We know that. And per New York City public records, in 2017, she resigned.
She did.
She resigned. And her salary then was $199,643 per public record.
That's nice.
When she moved to Mass, her 2022, I picked the year of the autopsy that was completed, right? That made sense. So she made $290,000 on the books and $290,310.
Yep.
That is a
on track calling Proctor either.
342.4% higher than other state employees.
Although he is on the defense list. So actually, let me double check that. Let me just hang on. I know I saved it somewhere. Let's have a look. No, not that one. Not that one. Let's have a look in there. Where did I save it? Oh, I forgot to put the floor plan of the house in that. Come on, where did I save it? Oh, it's in Canva, I think. I think it's still in Canva. I'll see if I can pull that up whilst this is going.
In Massachusetts.
Right. And she goes from a higher cost of living. Let's face it. I was 28 years. I was dreading. Please, I don't ever want to be assigned to New York. Send me to Peru. Send me to the jungles. I'll stay. Because why? No one can afford to live in New York City. And you got to drive. Some guys are driving in from Pennsylvania, way back and down like Atlantic City. It's guys are living together, just to try to make ends meet. And then she takes a pay grade, right? Upgrade, going from a high cost of living into Massachusetts. It's just amazing. Just amazing. Wow.
And then I also found it interesting because they're so short-staffed and they're struggling so hard, right, at the medical examiner's office in Massachusetts. It was so interesting to find out that also in 2022 that Dr. Scorti-Bello was contracted with the state of New Hampshire Department of Justice as a sole source contract for an amount not to exceed $12,000 for 6 days of work.
Oh my God.
She worked August 27th, 28th, November 5th and 6th, and December 10th and 11th.
Wow.
But Massachusetts is unable to keep up with being in compliance, for the standard of care, the national set standard. The other states are, banging out 15% more.
All right. Yes. So Elizabeth and Michael Proctor are on the defense's list of witnesses to call, as well as the district attorney, Michael Morrissey. So, there you go. Yeah, no, I don't think he's on the Commonwealth. They had 87 witnesses, 87, and the defense has 77.
Annually, and she is going up to New Hampshire and helping out the DOJ up there, their department, which is by a projecting surface of an object, which could appear to be a torn laceration, or the third kind is a stretch laceration, which is just heavy blunt impact.
Right.
And that causes your skin to stretch the opposite way, right? Like, so you're getting that blunt force and then the stretching of the skin. So the type that he has would be indicated as type 2, a torn laceration, or they could be, when I look at those, I see after I watched Melanie Little's the expert she had on, I was like, that makes sense all day. But I don't know really about dog I'm not an expert in those kind of wounds. So they seem to be a more of a non-patterned. It appears that could have been either a claw of the animal, or it could have been a bite. I am not.
What if the dog had latched on, but someone was pulling the dog away and John was pulling away?
100%.
Okay, I'll tell you
what.
There is a person, okay, that has said that he was told by Brian Higgins himself that he was actually pulling the dog off of John's arm. Now, I don't know where this guy went to. I know he was provided to the defense to question. I would imagine in the federal proffer that everyone on the other side doesn't want to agree that it actually happened, but we know it happened because Mr. Yannetti said it happened, and he's an officer of the court. I don't care what anyone says. But, very consistent. I do it I have my own dogs. I'll go like this. I'll put my arm out, right? That's what I do. And if John, whatever's happening to him, right? I hate to even think about this, right? And if it's true that Brian is pulling on the dog, right? Now, let's face it. I would say the dog doesn't know Brian that well. The dog probably put his attention back onto Higgins. Who knows? But it could be a pull tug type thing.
Yeah.
Being that you love wounds.
Absolutely could. And whatever happened, Sean, remind me, I'm so sorry. What happened with the they did not test for
They didn't test the tissue.
Yeah.
They tested the clothes.
Just
they didn't test the
shirt.
tissue.
Okay.
Surprise.
They didn't test his actual skin or.
Here's the other thing
wounds
they didn't test
or
for. They didn't test for other human DNA around the face area, like punching. Someone got, whatever.
Mhm.
They didn't test for human DNA.
Yeah.
You're welcome,
So,
darling.
well, that's amazing. Any other little nuggets you want to bring up? I think you do.
One more tidbit, Sean. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to say that as it relates to the area, I looked at the Canton PD, the report that they, the photos, right? The of where supposedly Officer O'Keefe's body was, where there was no snow. I mean, it's black and white photos. It's incredibly grainy. But then you see the blood spatter at the bottom two photos, and it looks to me, right, and I'm sure for you as law enforcement, that's splatter, right? And I look at that and I say, when Mary was talking about there being a significant pool of blood, it was reported that Officer O'Keefe lost over 50%, almost 3/4 of his volume, his blood volume. Right? And your head is so viscous. If he is drinking alcohol, has this impact that they state, via the DA's theory?
There's all the blood.
For him to be found where he was, there would have been so much blood in that frozen ground, right? It wouldn't have been your 6 solo cups. It would have been so much profound blood. I mean, granted, this is me assuming he doesn't have a clotting factor, like a medical condition. If he does, then that could change it. But he would have that would have been highly present, all contained in one localized area, and not had splatter as if there was someone being brought, right?
Right.
So that is the observation I had with that, because you see him on those autopsy photos laid supine on that, and you can see behind it that he's still actively bleeding, or was bleeding at the time he was there, on the paper that he's on.
Paper, yeah, right, exactly.
So where's the blood?
Exactly, right. It's funny.
Why wasn't it on Karen's car?
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, they try to say they put, they had blood and some DNA. Well, we know how that got there. They had the clothes, they had the blood, the solar cups. They banged out the taillight. Let's face it, that's all going to get lost. In down the road, that will get lost. I mean, I can't understand how they will try to put this case on. But anyways, real quick, I now that I know Mary was talking about, and yourself, how the blood would be spurting out. You know, there's two things I never got used to as a cop. The chest sucking wound, right? When you get shot in the chest and you just hear that gurgling and the blood is pushing out with every heart beat of the heart, right? And you can hear the gaping. I just hate that sound. And then the other is either a jumper or a car accident with the shape of the arms are in distorted, they're broken, and the knees up one way, and it just, those are two. But it did bring something back. That blood would be pulsating, right?
Absolutely.
It would be all over the place, all over,
like a sieve, like
yes,
a sieve.
exactly. Because I do have,
as you were saying, every single heartbeat, every pump of his cardiovascular system is going to, from this way, right? It's going to be squirt. And not only that, he'd be because of the, assuming, blood, alcohol makes our blood thinner, right? Drinking beer. And he's got, a cut here. He's got a cut here. There would have been, I mean, for the love of God,
right?
He would have been bleeding like a sieve. And you would have been like, wow, this is overwhelming with the collection, right?
Right. Well, you would think that was my whole draw into this. That was a botched crime scene. Even if they didn't want to get the house searched, officer safety should have said, "Hey, this guy's got no coat on." They didn't know he didn't have a coat on the night. We got to check that house. Maybe there's other victims. Maybe there's someone held in there. They weren't thinking. I don't know if they were told up front. I know there was a call made by Kerry Roberts to local hospitals and the Canton PD. Have you seen John? Have you had any calls for a missing person? Have you found this guy? He might have been drinking. I don't know if she said it was a Boston cop. I don't know if the telephone records will show, but there's a Boston cop in there. There's a Boston cop on the lawn. Maybe it was an ambush. Let's go in and find. Where's his gun? Could there be other victims? They should have hit that house just for safety, to check on the
public
welfare,
safety, yeah,
and the welfare of the occupants, and they didn't. So, that's a great. Well, listen, I mean, when you know, right? If you know, right? And we know why the cellar was busted up. We know why, and like I said, it's pissing me off because for a year now we have to accept this.
Thanks, Angela.
Crap that these people are actually going down the line, the road.
Notification came up on the screen.
A sideshow. I call it a sideshow. When it finally gets kicked off, all the microwave trucks are going to be all over Canton. There's going to be microphones in everyone's face. It's going to be a sideshow. But they wanted this. And it looks like the defense is going to give it right back to them. So anything else before we bring the panel up for a Q&A session?
Let's get those girls in, Sean.
Yes, Kim, before, and we can continue. If it comes up, we'll continue. All right, Mary and Kendra, we're going to come up and bring everyone on. All right, look at this.
Hi.
Mary, are you on, Mary? Kendra?
I'm here.
All right, so before we get into the Q&As,
All right.
I'm going to have to
think
do
we might leave this
couple
one
of
here
things
because
here.
it goes
Mary,
on for
anything you want to comment on?
another couple of hours. So if you want to head over and watch the rest of that, it's on Sean McDonough's site. Now his YouTube channel is going through the motions, and it's labeled under how medical professionals view the Reed case at the top there. You can see that. That's the actual video that I have just streamed. So if you want to go and have a look, by all means, go and check him out and like and subscribe his channel. It's fantastic. So thank you, Sean, for letting me share that. Now, let's get back to that. All right. So that was just a little bit of an insight as to what I thought may or may not have happened. I was hoping tomorrow night to. I've been going through the ER doctor's testimony and trying to put together a simple and more understandable explanation on what he's the points he's trying to get across, basically, and what happened, what they did, how they did it, why they did it, and a little bit of basic anatomy and function of the heart and what have you. So that will be about the same time tomorrow night. I'm hoping to have that all sorted. I'm halfway through. So stay tuned for that bit, seeing as we don't have any of the court this week. I thought we would do some deep dives into a little bit more information, so we're well informed come Monday. All right, thank you very, very much for joining us. I am not a monetized channel. I am only a brand new baby in the YouTube field. So if you fancy supporting the channel, please feel free. I have a Buy Me a Coffee app that you can just scan the QR code in the top right-hand corner, and that takes you to a site where you can purchase moi a coffee. So thank you very much for joining us again, and I shall see you tomorrow. Stay well. Have a great day. See you then.
Covering true crime and police arrest, where the judges move and the defense rests. Watching courts and trials, criminals at best, where the gavel drops and the defense rests.